Morning.
Morning.
See Michael Parsons getting some rehab work. How is that progressing?
Yeah, he got some work done on his back yesterday. I think it's going good. He was doing some of the stuff in the mock last night, so it's always good to see him moving around. But I think it's going well.
Getting closer to possibly practicing with you guys?
Again, still one of those things day to day. You just kind of keep an eye on it. And, again, he's doing all the things that we need him to do.
Until the Dallas Cowboys, what's your philosophy on starters in the preseason? Do you have one, and how do you plan to implement what you plan to do with your starters this week?
Yeah, I think I do have a philosophy, number one, and it's a philosophy kind of that I've generated over the years. I obviously reserve the right to change my mind if I want to, based on how we're doing out here in practice against ourselves and things like that. But I'll be general in what I say. But there's a handful of guys that won't play. But there's really, when you look at it, you have a target set of numbers that you want to get throughout the preseason. So maybe the number's 40 for a player. So maybe that's 10 to 15 plays tomorrow, another 25 or whatever against, Baltimore, and then you decide the third game. Our players are aware of kind of where they are going in this game. I'm not going to get into all the specifics. It would take me forever. It would be the only question I answer. But the philosophy is, again, there's certain guys that we feel like, hey, you know what, we don't need to see them play in this first game, but that could certainly change going into the next game.
Dak hasn't played the preseason since 2019, I believe, and I don't know. Certainly he hasn't missed the last 9 games last year. Is the Rams practice and stuff you do, teamwork here, enough to get him ready for the Eagles?
I think so. Yeah, I think we're getting some great work, and the Rams thing was great for us just because when you look at it, Clarence, it's like the pass rush was different, it was intense. We had a great practice yesterday, very physical, which you guys know from being out here. I was really proud of that. But Dak's a guy that at the end of the day, he's seen a lot of football. He's played a lot of football. I will step back and laugh for a second. So my old man, he had a philosophy that in the preseason, everybody plays. So story goes, 4th preseason game, LaDainian Tomlinson, MVP of the league. Hey, LT's playing. And the coaches are like, are you sure? He goes, oh, yeah, he's playing. So then he went to Cameron. He goes, here's the deal. Call a pass where he's free releasing. And then he goes to Drew Brees and says, whatever you do not throw the ball to 21. So he ran a swing route I'll never forget it. He ran a swing route to our bench. Okay, Drew threw the ball somewhere else, and LT just kept running over to the sideline, took his helmet off, and sat down. But he played. So I'm like, that's another way to do it, But I always remember thinking, interesting. So everybody plays, but it was like under no circumstance you throw the ball to that guy. Because I think, it's just, these guys that know how to play the game, they know how to play the game.
One quick question. Numbers at running back. Certainly, can you give us an update on Blue, Deuce? I mean, it seemed like you're going to be challenged on Saturday.
Yeah, again, I'll get some more information when I go in there. We're a little bit challenged. We got some good backup plans organized. We got some athletes that you guys might see toting the rock a little bit, and we'll do some fun things with those guys. But hey, we might have to just go all 5 wides and getting empty and sling it around a little bit. I mean, that's old football. Back, I used to do that, on Thanksgiving weekend with my family, just getting empty and spread it out. But again, I'll get more information about the injury guys. But we're a little thin at that spot, but that opens up opportunities for other guys. And again, you guys know I'm big into cross training, and hopefully we stay pretty healthy in this game.
Brian Todd Archer of the ESPN. Cooper Rush was a reliable backup for years here up behind Dak. Joe's untested. How important are these preseason games for him to, not only for himself, but for you guys to have complete faith that he can do it if needed?
Yeah, well, I think we have faith in Joe already. I think that's the first thing I would say, Todd. But it's incredibly important. You're talking about a guy that hasn't played a whole lot of football, not just in the National Football League, in college. I mean, some of these guys coming out of college, they've got 5-6 years worth of starts, and every rep that Joe gets is critical. So he'll play a ton of football, and he's going to do some great things. He's going to make some mistakes. That's part of preseason football. Shit, I'll make some mistakes. I mean, being a first-time head coach, and that's why we do preseason. And but the reps are important for him just because every chance he gets to stand back there and have to, what I say, drive the car, which is move the offense and things like that, he's learning. And he's learning on the run. And I think he's as excited as anybody to go out there and compete.
And then with Rebel, where is he in his recovery, return, rehab?
Yeah, I think, again, I had a little swelling, what was it, a week, 10 days ago, but I think, he's doing really good now. And again, I'm not going to put a timeline on him, but I think he's back to where we kind of want him to be. And the thing that's been fun for me, and I think DA talked about this the other day, is kind of watching, how Trevon's really been kind of leaning into Von and kind of helping him. And even in all the things that we do, he's a guy that really understands that, okay, I'm not getting the physical reps, but there's things that I can be learning and I can be watching and I can be mirroring. That's what you call it, you mirror. I stand behind a guy that's taking the live reps and things like that, and he's really bought into that. So, quick story, Joe Horn, obviously great receiver, played for us in Kansas City. He was a guy that was the first guy I ever saw do it. And so he would literally stand about 15 yards behind the offensive play. And so if the receiver, J.J. Bird and Derek Alexander, whoever was running the route, he'd be like 15 yards. He'd go in motion, like behind everything. And he was just stacking reps because Joe was more of a rep learner. And I'm not saying Von's that. I'm just saying the next thing you know, Joe takes off. He goes to New Orleans. He gets a huge contract. He becomes a Pro Bowl receiver. So the power of mental reps, I think, doesn't go unnoticed on me because I've seen guys like Joe Horn maximize those and turn those into really, career-defining changes.
Do a little bit of that early in camp.
He does. Yeah, Joe does that at times as well. Yep.
John Machado with The Athletic. Coach Shimko was telling us the other day about how, when you're Dak and you're going into year 10, there's really not much a defense can throw at you haven't seen before. But with Joe, he still needs to see all these different things. But he said, if he doesn't see something, and maybe doesn't hit on it, when he sees it again, he's been right on it. How have you kind of seen him grow from those perspectives?
Number one, Joe loves to be coached. He's really very competitive. You see, no one has more fun at practice than Joe, and it's not just the backflips. It's just he loves competing, and when he makes a big throw, he'll have his swag walk going and things like that. He just loves it. He loves to be out there. But I would totally agree with what Shimmy said. I mean, I think there's things that he hasn't seen and he might miss. And there's some blitz looks from the scrimmage the other day that kind of caught him off guard that, he was like, oh. But then when he sees him on video, he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Remember, this is all brand new for him. This is a protection system that's been in place for the most part for the past, 3 years. And Joe's one of the new guys with it. And I think, what's going to be really good for us is just watching him throughout the preseason, adjust to different blitz looks and that we see from, the Rams and Baltimore and Atlanta. But he does. He grasps things really well. And when you watch him, if you could see him in the film room or making the notes and talking about it, I mean, he is dialed in. Like, his eyes do not, I don't think he blinks. He literally stares because he's taking it all in. And he competes in the classroom just like he does on the field.
And Dak said that you mentioned maybe Brett Favre threw the ball like that. Can you think of any other quarterbacks that you've seen that have thrown a ball that reminds you of anything with Joe Mel?
I really can't, that I've been around. Because if you're not out there, I've seen guys, of course, throw it, on TV. But if you're not out there, when I was in New York, Brett Favre, he was, 40? And his elbow was bothering him a little bit. So we wanted to go inside, and because his arm was bothering him. So he went to Coach Mangini and said, hey, Eric, do you mind if we go inside? And Eric's like, yeah, we'll go inside, but I want you to let it rip today. And he kind of looked at him. He's like, oh, you want me to let it rip today? He's like, yeah, I want you to let it rip today. And to this day is maybe one of the greatest practices. I have the tape somewhere, Betacam, so I don't even know if I can play it anymore. But literally it was the most impressive practice I've ever seen because it was he was challenged by Eric in a good way. But yeah, the arm strength at 40, 41, whatever he was incredible. Joe might have him on distance, if I'm being honest with you. Joe might be able to throw it farther, but the RPMs are very close.
Nick Harris, Forward Star Telegram. Who are a couple of guys or position groups that you're looking forward to seeing in a live game environment tomorrow?
I think the young linebackers get me excited. I want to kind of see those guys play a little bit, And when I say young guys, it's not just rookies. It's first, second, third year players. The backs were beat up, but I still want to see these guys, go. And whoever it is, it is. The tight ends, they get me excited. Those are the first couple ones that popped into my mind. But there's really guys at every spot. And again, we talked to the team this morning about, number one, how amazing it is looking back. And I think it was first day of the phase 2 when we could practice. It was 70 days before the first real game. And so today the countdown tracker was set to 1 because we actually play a live football game tomorrow. And so there's, going to be some, really great film and learning opportunities and maximize the opportunity. And we talked about that, like, you're getting evaluated on everything you do, how you come off the field in terms of and make the adjustments, and how dialed in you are when you're talking to the coaches and we're making adjustments. So there's guys at every spot that, again, we will be, excited to see how they respond, not just to the environment, but to the overall flow of a game.
We've seen Elijah Clark get some burn with the one. Zion Childress had a good play with the one yesterday. When a guy comes in undrafted, how can they earn the trust so fast to be put in those situations?
Do right. Just do right longer. I mean, that's what we talk about all the time. The standard's the standard, and both those guys have done a great job of, picking up the things, and they spend extra time in the meetings. They ask great questions when you're sitting in the defensive meetings and you're listening to the guys, and the DB meetings. Like, both Zion and Elijah ask great questions. Zion actually just beat Crop in a basketball competition this morning, so he's probably on cloud 9 right now because he beat Crop on a buzzer beater. But to me, it's when guys come in, you just know, like, this, they get it. Like, this is a business, and I want to make the Dallas freaking Cowboys. And to do that, man, I gotta do something special, and that's work my ass off and don't take any days off and ask questions and compete so hard in everything I do. And those are two guys that have done that, along with many, many, many others.
Tom Arch, DallasCowboys.com. Dak was talking about yesterday how he's seen Joe grow with his internal time clock and getting the ball out. Where have you seen Joe take those steps in the mental getting the ball out part, and what are you going to need to see in the next 3 or so weeks that'll show you that he's on track to keep progressing?
I think Dak's dead on, and Joe knows that. Joe's the ultimate competitor. Joe's a 6'5", 235, 38-pound guy. So the competitive nature in him is to stand back there and rip, piss missiles at people. And literally in walkthrough, our guys are like, dude, please stop. Like, stop. It's a walkthrough. And he'll throw some fastballs. But the last 2 days, I would say, has been his 2 best days of understanding the time clock. And the way we kind of do it, is we tie it to their feet. So the best quarterbacks in the world, they listen to their feet because their feet tell them when to eliminate your progressions and when to get to your outlet, or when you actually have to take off and run. So you literally talk about listening to your feet. And when I say that, I'm talking about, okay, if my first hitch tells me I've got a little bit of time, that second hitch happens, you're like, okay, I got to do something now because I've used up my time clock's going. And the last 2 days, I would say he's been much, much better. It'll be interesting to see when the bullets are flying live tomorrow, how he does.
How hard is it for young quarterbacks to get that down? Is that something that you've seen kind of stretch and vary between different guys over the years?
I'm a huge footwork guy, so I think, Tommy, when you talk about it, it's like that is the hardest thing to figure out because, and that's what I hate about 7-on-7. Because 7-on-7, there's no time clock. Like, you can still do it, but you don't feel it. Like, shoot, I'll say this about Dak. The last 2 practices, yesterday's practice, I thought he did an incredible job of finding the check down. But, like, whether you go back to the young quarterbacks I've been around, Sam Bradford, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Andrew wasn't young when I had him, but, like, there's a learning curve. And that I think that's what takes them so much time, is when to eliminate a progression. Because when you have a progression, I'm going from right to left, I'm starting with Garrett and I'm working all the way over here to Calvin. It's like sometimes you lock in on those things, but there is a time clock that you have to feel and instinctively take over, and it takes a little while.
Joe Hoyt, Dallas Morning News. This might be a little bit of a reach, and you kind of talked about it a little bit, but in the evaluation period during these games, when you're trying to learn about these guys, do you curate maybe challenges for certain guys that you want to see how they respond to certain elements, maybe putting them in a position in play where I want to see how he handles this?
Yeah, I think, absolutely. The answer is yes. It doesn't always happen. Like, you have a plan sometimes to go in, and, we don't control who they play. There's matchups that you'd like to see again, like even watching the film where you'd be like, man, I wish we could get a chance to see this matchup again. And but like I said before, when you're calling the offensive plays, of course, you're looking in the huddle, and you're saying, okay, hey, I want to get the ball to Joe, so I'm going to call a play. I know what position you're playing. You're playing X, Z, F, Y, H, whatever it is. Okay, so I'm going to call this play because I want to try to get you a ball. Doesn't always happen that way. On defense, there's things that you can do where we want to evaluate guys with blitzes and things like that. Although, like I said, the 7-iron will be out, and we'll be playing, downwind a little bit, but that's going to be fine because it's going to come down to us having to execute. And I think that we will execute better in this game than we did in the scrimmage.
You mentioned when you're talking about Pete that you kept notebooks of things that, hey, I'm going to write this down. I kind of like this, or I didn't like this throughout your coaching career. You still have those notebooks?
I do.
Where do you keep them?
In my office in the top left-hand drawer.
How many
Don't go in there. Cable will tackle you guys if you try to go in there. Yeah. How many do I have? They're little. They're not very big. I'd say probably 12 to 15-ish, and they're kind of sorted by year, and I go back through them and read them quite often and highlight things, and it's interesting to see how I've changed, some of my things that I've changed. And I probably started that around 2016 or 17, actually, when I left Georgia and came back to the NFL. Is when I really started kind of doing it, and so that's kind of where it started. And in the old days, I used to have like just the yellow folders, and I still have those. My wife actually thinks I'm an absolute, pack rat, like I'm a hoarder, because one thing football coaches we all do is you like, oh, honey, I need that playbook from 1996. Like, you never know when I'm going to want to look back at that thing, because, man, we had a really good year back in whatever. You never look at it. And now, of course, I'm not the most techie guy, but all these things are on jump drives and things like that. But it's fun to go back and look at those things and to challenge yourself and be like, man, do you really still believe that? Because you did back then. And sometimes it's yes, and sometimes it's, not really. I've changed.
Garrett Podell, CBS Sports. Brian, a couple guys got tangled up yesterday, Jake Ferguson in the red zone and Jaden Blue. What are your updates on them and where they're at?
Yeah, I think, again, I'll find out more when I go in there, Garrett, but I think, Fergie's doing good. Jaden's still getting some testing done. I don't think it's anything too serious. But, look, I've talked about this with you guys. Like, we're going to practice physical. And I challenged our guys yesterday, and I'll share this with you guys because I'm incredibly proud of it. So I told them, hey, we're going in pads. We need to get our pads down, play with better pad level. We've got to have a physical practice. And in the first 2 periods, if we do it right, which they've always done it right, then I'll take them off and we'll put the soft shells on. And so they were like, okay, cool. So we started the practice. They answered the bell like they should because they understand the standard is the standard, and that's the way we have to play. And so after the second period, I kind of called them up, said, yep, go take the pads off, put the shells on. That's something you'll do during the season as the season drags on into week 9 and 8 and things like that. And they're like, no. We want to keep them on. We need this work. And to me, that tells you that they're buying into the fact that we need to be a physical team. And nothing gets you more fired up than that as a coach because they're embracing the grind. They're embracing the fact this is training camp, and we're gonna play a game tomorrow, and then they get Sunday off, and Monday we'll do a little mock, and then boom, Tuesday we're going back to pads. We're not backing off on the fact we're going to be a physical team.
Well, that was my question, Coach.
Oh, well, good.
Michelle Monte, WBA. Dak talked about that. Kenneth Murray talked about that kind of thing. I love that. Don't get that every day. That combined with some of the chippiness we've seen throughout camp, especially at the beginning, what do you make of, I guess, what that says about where this team is at? Because I don't know that would be their decision maybe in years past.
I think that they're competitors. And again, you heard the last response. Like, I was very prepared to take the pads off. And this was actually right after Fergie. Fergie had the thing. And, again, things happen. And, Fergie and Kenneth talk, K9. And, again, those things happen and it gets addressed. And, it never bleeds from there to there. It really doesn't. You're a family, And but, again, to me, when you start with your football mantra and you talk about, all about the ball, things like that, and then you talk about owning the line of scrimmage. Well, there's one way to own the line of scrimmage, and that's to play physical and to get your pads down and to get your eyes underneath the chin. And I think these guys have bought into that. And they could have easily said, yeah, let's take them off, Coach. You told us if we put it out there, you'd take them off, and I was going to. And they were like, no, we're good to go. And means they're They're excited about what we're trying to do, and they realize that there's work to be done.
Did you talk to K9 about that hit? Was it clean? Was it? I mean, how do you?
Yeah, I mean, it happened. I mean, again, they talked more than I did. You know, Fergie's fine, but again, those are things you want to avoid. You know, you want to avoid those things. You know, and so those are the things that we talk about. But it wasn't the only one. You know, we had too many guys on the ground yesterday. Again, the physicalness of practice is fine. There was too many guys on the ground. You know, sometimes it was the pass rusher got too close. One time the pass rusher got pushed in the back. One time it was a run through linebacker. Like, those things happen. And again, I'm going to say it again, and you guys can keep quoting me, and it's easy for you to write down, but we want these guys to play on the edge without going over the edge. And part of that is they're learning how to practice and stay up, and we're not there yet where we need to be in terms of keeping guys up and protecting one another from a physical standpoint in those physical practices. But we're getting there.
Babe Laufenberg, Cowboys Radio Network, 105.3 FM.
It took a while to get all that out, Dave.
Yeah, don't get this.
Yeah. You mad at Tad about that?
No, not
yeah,
Tad.
Yeah. You're good, Tad.
These are tactics in a row.
Wow.
So, I always think of the play caller and the quarterback as kind of the pitcher catcher, the baseball catcher flashes aside, pitcher sees just runs things. How much has it helped you being around Dak last year, making that position to jump into a play caller, as opposed to getting a new guy, get the feel for him, what he likes, be it a rookie or a veteran guy?
Yeah, it's huge. You get it. You understand. You've been that guy. I think it's huge. I think because, Dak and I, number one, we've have incredible trust in one another. We're not going to agree on everything. But
Who wins if you don't agree?
No, really both of us, Matter of fact, there was a play yesterday that he didn't like the name of it. And I said, he goes, it's just not hitting my brain. He goes, can we change the name? I said, I tell you what, if you throw a touchdown here, I'll let you change it. And then the defense jumped offside, so he didn't run the play. So then he said, what do you want to do? You didn't give me a chance to repeat the play. I said, fine, you can name it. So I guess he won that one. But no, it's important. I think it helps. If you don't have the confidence and the trust in one another as the quarterback and the play caller, to have real conversations leading up to games. Hey, I really don't like this play. Hey, don't call that one early. Or hey, yeah, I'm good. I love that one. Or hey, Shotty, hey, you go, man. Hey, I'm good. We put a concept in yesterday, a little wrinkle, and he was like, dude, I love that. And so it just makes the communication easy because there's already connection, there's already trust, and the X and O part comes pretty easy.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.